Hello there. Once again, it's Santosh from Anton Bay, and today I'm taking a look at the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Bebop and Rocksteady action figure collection. Kind of just a comparison of all your different Bebop and Rocksteadies throughout time, throughout different licensing, and kind of my feelings on all of them and the ones I like. And I just thought I'd run it down. So I'm going to start with the very first one, which is the Bebop and Rocksteady from the original Ninja Turtles action figure line. He is a 7 POA, just rotates at the shoulder, turns at the wrist, has ball joints at the hips, which didn't ever move a lot. And I noticed a lot of these with age have gotten more fragile. And then just a neck rotation. Very, very sculptedly detailed, horrifically so. This is not a re-release, this is the original. He's got some years on him. I remember there was a bunch of deal with his pink face and why was it pink, and the later versions were brown. And Rocksteady's the same story. Very detailed, very dark looking character. And one thing I did appreciate and both didn't like was that they don't look like the cartoon characters. The action figures did not look like the cartoon characters they were representing. And that's kind of a love and hate thing. One, I hated it that they didn't look right, but two, I kind of liked that they looked darker and a little grittier, definitely more frightening. And because of that, I felt like I could, in my role-playing, games as a child, I could put these guys in darker, different scenarios that I don't think the cartoon versions would have really fit in with. These guys could tangle with He-Man and his monsters and stuff like that a lot easier than the cartoon versions of these guys could, because they're just darker and grittier, and they're the toy universe version of them. And I know that doesn't really match anything else, but that's what makes it uniquely your own, is you get to, these are your versions, which I thought was cool. So the next version I'm going to look at, these are also originals. These are not re-releases. These are from the original Ninja Turtle line. These are just the superhero versions, and for the longest time I was confused with the Rhino Man and Mighty Hog episode. Is that who these are supposed to be? No, it is not. They're completely separate versions. So you just got a Super Bebop and you've got a Super Rocksteady, and I think these even have actions. Yeah. And this is an old original. When I cleaned out my old vintage collection, I got rid of a lot of figures. Did not get rid of this one because I'd hunted these down. It was just far too hard to get, and I loved them too much. Not really ever sure what's going on with the coloration on his nose. It looks off to me. But your articulation's the same as it is in all the others, except you have this action spring waist. So I guess that puts him up to about an 8 POA figure. Not a big fan of action features in figures. I think Super Rhino guy has it too. And he still has the wrist rotation, which a lot of them, in later figures, they kind of stopped doing it. These, I love the head sculpts on these better, and the original figures could have done a little more closely, but these are also very cartoony, which, you can either appreciate or not appreciate. That's kind of up to you. But they don't, even though they're from the action figure line, didn't come from the animated line. And I suppose that could step me into, while they're up front, the NECA re-release versions, or NECA's actual versions of Rhino Man and Mighty Hog. This was one of my favorite episodes because it really got you to see that, well, for one thing, anybody can be a hero if they want to be, and these guys actually kind of enjoyed being heroes to a large degree. And that always cracked me up because they're supposed to be so bad, but in their hearts, they're really not that bad. And that's one of the things I always liked about Bebop and Rocksteady. And these guys, you could tell Bebop just put his superhero tights on over his regular clothes. Heavily articulated, very well made, pretty well made NECA figures. They do have the typical NECA, this is a little bit gummy feeling going on with them. But these are very, very cartoon accurate from that episode. So I appreciate that. I'm going to set them back over there. Rotate these guys over here. And I guess we'll look at the other NECAs I have in this line. Or another set of NECAs, I should say. Which is the Super Bebop and Mighty Rocksteady, the robot versions of them. I always wanted the original toys, but they're like chrome, very expensive, very hard to get your hands on. And these are more cartoon accurate. And I've reviewed them once. I just wanted to put them in this list. I know they're not technically Bebop and Rocksteady, but they essentially are Bebop and Rocksteady. So I appreciate that. I appreciate these figures. Definitely one of my more favorite episodes back in the day. Next up, I'm going to just take a look because they're short. We'll look at these BTX, or whatever you call them, the ones that you see at Walmart and stuff. They're smaller scale. They're about 5 inches. Now, I'm not wild about the knee articulation, particularly on all of their figures, is terrible. That just looks terrible. Why would you make them this way? But the other part about these that is kind of weird to me that is a bite. The Bebop looks perfect. I mean, that is a very, very cartoon accurate Bebop. No problems with it at all. The knee articulation doesn't even get me bothered on these. Great figure. So what's with the Rocksteady? Why does he look so vastly different? He doesn't look like any version of Rocksteady I've ever seen anywhere. Either in dress or face sculpt or anything. So why do you have one that's so dead on and one that's not at all? I don't know, that bothers me, and that was kind of, I don't know. I was happy to get the Bebop. I was much more disappointed by the Rocksteady. But hey, I chose to buy it. It's on me. While he's dead center here, I'm just going to grab him. I do love the 2012 Nickelodeon Ninja Turtles very, very much. I absolutely love that series. With the caveat that I think it has the worst renditions of Bebop and Rocksteady of any of the cartoons ever. And so even though I love that show, I hate them. I even like the Michael Bay versions of Bebop and Rocksteady better than these versions of Bebop and Rocksteady. And I don't even have the Bebop anymore. I got rid of it just because I really hated it. Bebop is my favorite of these two. And I feel like he was really, really ruined in that show. Just like, that is not who Bebop is. And I don't even like how Rocksteady is, because really, he's a Russian arms dealer. I don't feel it. I don't follow that. However, I did like the appearance of this figure, so I did keep it. But yeah, as much as I like that show, that's definitely my least favorite Rocksteady. And the Bebop just saddens me. So this Bebop and Rocksteady right here, these are Playmates. They came out, oh gosh, I don't remember. And of the action figures, for the longest time, these were hands down my favorites. Like, I absolutely loved these. They're still that medium, not quite cartoon, not quite comic, not quite whatever. They're kind of their own version. And I really enjoy them. The articulation is pretty good enough. Their scale is really good. They work well with a lot of other action figures. I do feel like the stronger of the two in this particular set of release is the Rocksteady, which is, rare, because I'm usually the bigger Bebop fan, but this Rocksteady was just so amazing. You can still get these. They're Playmates stuff. They're around. But I do feel like Rocksteady should be a little larger. Bebop is just a little bit too big or bulky on the top, and Rocksteady is just a little bit too small. But they're very good. Next up, I have the NECA cartoon, completely cartoon accurate with cell shading and everything. Bebop and Rocksteady. These look dead on for the show, 100%. The only beef I have with them is that they are NECA, and that makes them a little bit gummy feeling. And every time you move them, you can hear them kind of creak and do that sound. You know what I mean? So that's not wild for me. I don't know, I'm just not a big fan of the kind of fat bellied Rocksteady, which I feel like NECA tends to do. I like the more chiseled, muscled look, but I mean, that is how they were in the show, so I can't argue with it. It's just I like some of the renditions better. But they are up there as far as being super fantastic, high tier Bebop and Rocksteady figures. Next up, these are going to be hands down my favorite, and I might have to tip my camera back just slightly to catch some of these big boys in here. But these are the Super 7 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Ultimates. This Bebop and Rocksteady is, they're just my favorites. Like, out of all of them now, these are my go-to. Even if I'm scaling these with Marvel Legends or anything like that, I feel like these guys should be that large. I mean, they're big. They're very, 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 very big guys. So if you want to compare that to the original, you get an idea of just how massive they are. Plus, there is a nostalgia factor to these guys that I can't even put my finger on. They are so perfect in their scaling. It's like I'm twice as big as I was when I got the originals, and these are twice as big as the originals are, so that they feel the same size in my hands and everything. You know, you feel like a kid again. They look amazing. They're every bit as detailed as the old ones. Hands down, my favorite versions of Bebop and Rocksteady in action figure form. I wouldn't trade these for anything. These guys are the best. Their accessories also are just stellar. Can't complain about them at all. And then for size, I used to have a large original Bebop from the toy line, the big kind of fluffy inflatable ones, but I could never afford a Rocksteady. The Rocksteadies were much rarer and much more expensive. So I had one Bebop, and he did end up getting sold. So the only ones I do have at this point, I had to tip it up to get this chunk in here, is these guys. These are from the Michael Bay movie, which I really didn't like. I didn't care for at all, really. I mean, I'm glad that we finally got to see these guys in live action. They are a little bit disgusting as far as that goes. And these guys are massive. These are, I think, the 12-inch ones or something like that. And they are identical to the small ones, which I also used to have, but I was like, I don't really care for them, so I wasn't something I felt I really needed to hold on to. I like the Rocksteady better out of these molds, and I also love Sheamus. So the fact that he was the one who played these helps a lot. You've got kind of a ball joint hinge at the shoulders, another ball joint type hinge thing at the elbows that doesn't move a whole lot, wrist rotation, waist rotation, ball joint at the hip, and then a weird kind of a weird ankle or a knee thing that moves strangely. Yeah, these they are what they are. I'm not a big fan of them. But yet, you know, I still have them. I couldn't bring myself to get rid of them. And the head is also on a ball joint, so it kind of rotates around differently. So that's them. And they're the biggest ones I got, but definitely my favorites, absolute favorites, are those guys right there. They're pretty tremendous. See if I can put him back there. Kind of slide everybody back in here so we can kind of remember what we got. I have mixed the team. Yeah, I know. For the longest time, these two guys right here were absolutely my favorites. And, you know, you get a better figure, you move on a little bit. It happens. We'll move you. And you can stay there. You guys can move right there. And there we go. So you can't beat the originals, and that's my opinion. These guys aren't bad for their pricing. I'm kind of looking forward to maybe seeing if they're going to do something else. There's that one Ninja Turtle line that's out now, the Elite or whatever series they call it. When they get a Bebop and Rocksteady, I will probably check them out. But as it is, nothing is touching these Super 7s. They are by far my favorites, and that's everything that's in between. Thank you guys very much for watching. I hope you enjoy Bebop and Rocksteady. That's my story. Catch you later. Bye.